Hello, community! I am sharing with you all today 5 red flags to look out for when discerning whether or not to work with a spiritual healer, practitioner, and I share 20 of these red flags in a video in the White Rose Collective Facebook group, as well as my own personal horror stories of learning these lessons the hard way over a decade. So feel free to check that out in the White Rose Collective Facebook group if you want the full transmission. But for now, here are 5 really important red flags to watch out for. And the first one is, what is a practitioner's credentials? And one of the most important credentials to look out for is whether or not someone is trauma informed. And this is really important because, especially if someone is holding safe, brave space, and especially if emotions or vulnerabilities are invited to come forward, it is so absolutely critical that a practitioner is actually trained in trauma-informed practices. Otherwise, the experience could be potentially even re-traumatizing. So if someone says that they are trauma-informed, that has become a pretty popular buzzword. So check to make sure that they are actually trained. If they don't already have their training cited, ask for it, because that is super, super important for your safety and everyone else's. Another red flag to watch out for is when they are sharing about a particular product or service that they are offering. Are they emphasizing speaking to your pain points, or are they calling you forward in your sovereign empowerment? And the way that this can look like is someone could say along the lines of, hey, are you suffering in ABC ways? Does your life suck? If so, you need my help. Versus, are you ready to reclaim sovereign empowerment over your life and be equipped with tools to support you in your next chapter? I trust that you already got this, and I'm here to help if you desire it. So there's a difference there of one aspect speaking to your weaknesses and seeing you not in your power, and then the other aspect of actually acknowledging that you are a sovereign being and you can do whatever you want without somebody's support being necessary, because you are your own greatest healer. Sometimes we just need to be reminded how to do that. So watch out for pain point marketing. That's super snowbally. And in general, are you clear on what their motivations are? Can you discern if someone is being of sincere service from their heart, or do they lean too much into imbalances with seeking fame or attention or excessive money through predatory practices? And I want to be abundantly clear with this. I am in full support of people creating livelihoods that support them for their sincere passions and their genuine talents. I want to be a part of an economy that does that. That said, with our current capitalist frameworks, it's really easy for people to lean into predatory and manipulative practices. So these are some things to look out for, including if someone potentially may be leaning too much into seeking ego validation or attention. One way to identify that is if they only talk about themselves. And this could even be in conversations with clients, they're only talking about how great they are as a healer practitioner and not getting to know why a potential client is coming to them. Or if they refuse to admit that they're human and they act super higher than thou, putting themselves on their own pedestal, especially with titles or identities that they have. It can just be really slippery slope with that, because people can really disassociate from the reality at hand and end up acting above and beyond the current matrix and reality that we're in. And this can be potentially really, really sketchy because people can get really high on their ego trips. So watch out for that as best that you can. And related to money in that sense, do they offer any fair payment plans? trade exchanges, which could be like exchanging goods or services instead of money? Do they offer discounts or scholarships for folks of marginalized backgrounds? And if they do that to any degree, then that can indicate that somebody has more balanced practices with money. A really easy tactic that I see can be really popular is some predatory practitioners could try to hook people into subscription-like rabbit hole cycles, which can be along the lines of, hey, you did ABC, therefore you need XYZ to complement that. That'll be another $500. And then that can cycle into itself. And especially with like a narrative that says you can only receive these services from me, I am the best, like anything else is not of the light or of the highest light. So watch out for practices like that, because that's just really gonna try to like pin people into a rabbit hole. So related to ethics, if they work with nature, such as medicines, what are their sustainability and ethics practices? And we can see this with cacao as an example. If someone is sharing cacao, do they directly fair trade their cacao with the indigenous communities from which it comes from? If they serve combo, are they ensuring that their combo frogs are being treated with reverence and immaculate care? If they are an herbalist, what are their harvesting practices? And I will note that the very best practitioners will already be transparent about all of this, so you won't even have to ask. That said, if you do ask, be super mindful about how they respond, and have critical thinking around it, especially if you start to lean into asking them questions about their perspectives on real world issues. Can they talk about anti-racism or real world issues without spiritually bypassing? And I talk a lot more about spiritual bypassing in my soon to come sacred activism workshop. So stay tuned for that, because we go all into what spiritual bypassing is and how we can be legitimate agents of change in our world while staying true to our hearts. So that said, watch out for people who may, in summary, respond to questions about anti-racism and real world issues by just glossing it over. Just like, oh, but choose light, and like not actually acknowledging that there are real sufferings going on in the world and for many of us today. And that as humans living the full spectrum human experience, we live the whole range of it too. And if they can't admit that they're human and that they don't have their own thorns to their roses, so to speak, or shadows to their light, then that's probably not somebody that's going to be safe to work with. And I will leave you with this super important key to help identify and navigate for yourself a lot of these red flags, as they may or may not come up, hopefully not, is tuning in when you are communicating with a potential practitioner that you're interested in working with. How does your body feel? And that's going to sound super simple at first, but I swear to goodness, this is a really profound key. So, do you feel any type of anxiety or nervousness when you're communicating with them? Is like your heart pumping? Do you feel any type of pressure to like perform or to like meet any degree of expectations? Do you feel like you need to like fulfill a certain type of archetype or persona to fit in with them, as if you're like denying parts of yourself? Like, some people might call that shadow aspects or insecurities. And do you just generally feel fully seen and valued in your authenticity? And overall, does your body feel safe, whatever safety means for you? Does it feel calm? Do you feel comfortable? These are all really important keys of communicating with our subconscious, which controls two to three parts of our brain, which receives so much information that our thinking minds might overlook. So by tuning into our bodily sensations when we are connecting with a practitioner is a super powerful way to indicate whether or not someone is right to work with. And I'll leave you with the reminder, above all, you are your own greatest healer no matter what. Your greatest healer, teacher, guru, whatever. And anyone who tries to convince you otherwise is on an ego trip. That's just the truth. And that's because anyone who is an actual healer will acknowledge that no one can heal anybody except themselves. Healers are actually guides that equip other people to remember their own sovereign empowerment and their own ability to take care of themselves for themselves. And so really watch out for any of those dynamics where someone might like position themselves as like, oh, you need me. I'm here to heal you. I'm going to heal all your things, because that's just not true. They may support you in healing yourself, but you are your own greatest healer. So what matters most is that you can be equipped with the tools and guidance to help you rediscover that sovereign power for yourself. And I sincerely hope that you receive that in all of the most sincere support on your journey. So please feel so welcome to dive into more of these red flags and lessons learned in my full transmission in the White Rose Collective Facebook group. And I'm also available for private messages if you desire any support in discerning further. Because goodness gracious, I sure wish that I had that support when I was navigating the waters over the past decade. And so I hope this serves you. Sending lots of love.